Hi and welcome. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. Now today's what I have is another part to my completed quilt trunk show. This will be part 9, where I show about 10 quilts at a time, just quilts that I have around my house. So we're gonna get started with, this is number 81. Now this quilt was a free pattern from Fat Quarter Shop. It was a free online tutorial, and the name of the pattern was Star Cakes, and it was a layer cake pattern. Now I believe that tutorial was just for the blocks, and then I just put all the blocks together and used my own finishing to finish it. So we'll take a look at the back. And there's a look at the back. It was quilted on the long arm with a flower pantograph. Now this doesn't have a label on it, so I'm not exactly sure when it was done. But since it was quilted by the long arm, I'm going to assume it was quilted sometime in 2018, because that's when the long arm came around, was around 2018. And I really didn't start labeling my quilts until about 2019. So I'm going to say around 2018, but I'm really not sure. Now this is number 82, and the name of this pattern was Scrappy Triangles, and this was from a book which was Best of Fons and Porter Scrap Explosion quilt book. Now it was quilted on the long arm with a flower pantograph, so we'll flip it over and take a look at the back. So there's a look at the back, and according to the label, it was finished in 2018. Now just because of the backing, it's hard to see that flower pantograph coming through, but it was quilted on the long arm with a pantograph. Now this I'm just going to call a bonus project, because what this was just a checkerboard that I had made for us to put on the coffee table, and we played checkers with the kids with it. And this is what I'm also going to refer to as a bonus project, because this was like a card mat to play cards on that my husband and kids used to do. I don't even remember what the name of the game was, but my husband just kind of gave me the dimensions and the design of it, and he picked out all the fabrics from my scraps, and I made it for him. So he used to play with it, the kids with it, for their card game. Now this is number 83. Now this was a Jolly Bar pattern, and a Jolly Bar is an exclusive pre-cut fabric from Fat Quarter Shop that's 5 by 10 inches. Now this, and they have a pattern that comes with those Jolly Bars. Now this particular pattern came with a Jolly Bar that I had gotten in a sew sampler box. Now I had used that fabric to make another pattern, so I still had this pattern, and I used just scraps from my fabric stash and made this. Now this was quilted with a pantograph called Petalism, so we will flip it over and take a look at the back. And that's a look at the back, and this was just finished this year, and I've shown it previously on my weekly updates and things as I finished it. And this is number 84, which this was a table runner that came in a Cupid box. The name of the pattern was Shot Through the Heart, and I quilted it with a heart pantograph. I'll flip it over and see if we can look at the back. So that's just the back, but you can't really see much of the heart pantograph. So I tried turning it to see if you could see the pantograph, the quilting on it a little bit better, but didn't really work. But that's okay. And I don't know when it was finished. Now this is number 85. Now this was actually a quilt kit that I had bought that came with the backing and everything. So there wasn't really any piecing involved because it was just the panel. But I quilted it with a pantograph that has like trucks and trees and cars on it. And then the little stuffed toys on the side also came with the panel that I could cut out and made. But we'll flip it over and take a look at the back. And there's a look at the backing, which has that road print on it. So a child could take their little cars and use it as a road, or the little stuffed toys there they could use. And according to the label, this was finished in 2020. And this is number 86. This was from a Creative Notion subscription box, and the pattern was chenille diamond quilt, and the edges of it actually have some chenille on it, so when you wash it and dry it, it fluffs up. Now, I had used Minky on the back of it to make it extra soft, and I quilted this on the long arm with a pantograph called Petalism. So we'll flip it over and take a look at the back. And that's just a look at the Minky backing. Now that Minky does make that quilting really pop out and stand out on it. Now this is number 87. Now I'm just going to refer to this as a fall quilt. I know I got this from a quilt magazine, but as I looked through all my many quilt magazines, I couldn't find the actual pattern. I no longer get quilt magazines, but I used to, and I have quite a few. Now, and even though the label on the back tells me the year it's finished, sometimes my quilts tops are actually finished years before I get around to doing the quilting and binding. So I don't always remember the name of the patterns. So I'm just going to call this my fall quilt, and I quilted it with a leaf pantograph on the long arm. So we'll flip it over and take a look at the back. And there's the back. You can't really see much of the quilting, but it was quilted with a leaf pantograph, and I don't have a label on it, so I don't know exactly when it was completed. I do know that I bought some of those fabrics in Shipshawana at a shop hop, which we went to in 2017. So it was finished sometime after then. So this is number 88. And again, I don't know where the pattern came from, but I'm just going to call it my Friendship Star quilt because it's all based off of Friendship Star, where there's some extra fabric added on the corners. So it was quilted on the long arm with a paisley pantograph because there's paisleys in the border fabric and in the fabric in those Friendship Stars. So we'll flip it over, take a look at the back. And that's a look at the back with that paisley pantograph. And according to the label, this was finished in 2019. Now this is number 89. And I did find the pattern for this. And the name of the pattern for this is In the Summertime by Emily Bailey. And it was in a Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting magazine, the July-August 2017 issue. And it was quilted with a feather pantograph. So we'll flip it over and take a look at the back. So there's a look at that back where it has that feather pantograph all over. And it didn't have a label, so I don't know when I finished this one. And this is number 90. And I do not know this pattern either. I'm just going to refer to it as a spool quilt because I think those look like spools of thread. I did quilt this on the long arm, and when I quilted it, I just used a loopy line free motion pattern on the long arm, and I chose that because I thought it kind of looked like some loose threads just running amok on there. So we'll just flip it over and take a look at the back. Now, I don't know if that vision quilting with the thread really came through, but that was my thought process when I quilted it. Let's flip it over. And there's a look at the back, and according to the label, I made this, or finished this, in 2018. Okay, so that brings part 9 to an end. But don't worry, I still have at least one more part left to go. Maybe more. We'll see. Till next time, bye.